Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Cloud Games. My name is Richie and joining me this week is the host of Talking the PS at CyberChris2077, Mr. Chris.
Gear Eatings, everyone.
Gear Eatings Chris. And joining us as well is the chaotic neutral one, Mr. Rob.
I don't have a clever intro, I'm sorry. Hello.
It's 2 weeks now. 2 weeks, 3
I know,
weeks.
because
I'm sure
My
you
plan
did
now
Halo
is to go
twice.
back.
No.
I did Halo, but no one caught on the first time, so I'm going
I
to
did.
revert to Halo because I feel like it's the better one. But yeah, this week I was like, what other franchise can I kind of mold in? I was going, Forza, that doesn't work with anything for Halo. But yeah, Gear Eatings is the nearest best thing I could get.
Yeah,
So
I
this
just
is where the
went
podcast, like the podcasting experience comes through when you do your kind of your clever intros and I'm just here floundering.
Yeah.
Hello.
What I want from you, Rob, next week is just when I introduce you, just go Forza. And
Okay, yeah.
just, make it as awkward as you can, though.
Master Chief.
We've got a great show lined up for you this week where we'll be discussing Flight Simulator turning 40, big Halo news dropping, and Gears getting the TV treatment. All that and much, much more on this week's XPass. But before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications turned on to keep in the loop with all the great content here at Helix Cloud Games, such as Talking the PS, where we break down all the Sony news in the clouds, what's happening over on the side, the PlayStation, CloudQuest, our cloud gaming discussion show every single Friday, also on YouTube and podcast services, and our weekly live streams and first looks and much, much more. So, gentlemen, I'm going to say no God of War talk here because
Aww.
we're going to talk a lot about God of War
Forza,
tomorrow
Forza.
on Talking the PS. But what, other than God of War, have you been playing anything interesting?
Who wants? Rob, you can go first.
I mean, yeah, because I've been playing something else than God of War.
Yeah.
I'm still in Chivalry 2. I'm getting sucked into that community. It's going to stay for a while for me, I think. It's going to be like a chill out game which I just drop into for like half an hour every now and again. But yeah, with kind of my work commitments kind of ramping up for the end of the year, I'm just taking gaming wherever I can get it at the moment.
Yeah. Have you jumped back into PC or are you sticking with Xbox for it?
I have switched over to the PC version just because like that's where my kind of leveling up is. So
Yeah.
that's the main one I'm on at the moment.
I actually think mouse and keyboard would feel better for that style of game anyway, personally.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my kind of gaming for this week and probably next week as
Yeah.
well, to be honest.
Yeah. So, Chris, anything other than God of War?
Yeah, so on GamePass on PC, we got the Walking Dead New Frontier, which was the final entry in the Telltale series, which I didn't get around to playing because when it came out, it was just a case of I'm going to wait till I've got a preferred time, but I've loved all the Walking Dead series so far, so it was one I wanted to check out. Foolishly, I looked at it on Monday and then remembered God of War was coming out on the Wednesday, so started it, played about half an hour, thought, yes, I remember why these games were great, I remember why I love them, but I was conscious enough not to commit to it on the Monday, and truth be told, I'll probably never get around to it again now, but at the time, I had all the interest to start it. And then this past week, I've also been intrigued by Vampire Survivors, which I've seen loads of people hyping up across the internet, saying it's in for Game of the Year running. I think it's ironically they're saying it, but yeah, we need to check out Vampire Survivors at some point, gents, because it's getting loads of fun hype.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Probably do a live stream or something on it.
And
in the next few
Ragnarok, of
weeks.
course.
Yeah.
Stop talking about Ragnarok, Chris.
No,
It will come.
it will come. It's already come. It's downstairs. We need to get through this podcast so we can go back and play.
That's true.
I have actually been jumped into Football Manager. Specifically, I've been playing on my phone using through the cloud, and I was happy to find out because it is through the phone. It is the console version, not the PC version. I don't know if there's any real difference. I can't with my limited knowledge of more recent football managers, I can't see a difference. But what I was happy to find is it has direct touch. So I was worried like I was going to jump in and it's going to do that emulated controller thing.
Tiny.
Where like controller support, using the controller for Football Manager works, but it is far from the ideal way to play that game, which is effectively a glorified spreadsheet simulator, let's be fair.
Excel.
Yeah.
There's more to it than
The
that,
game.
but it's like, I mean, it's not. I wouldn't even describe it as a mouse and keyboard game. It's a mouse game. You don't need necessarily. You could play that game perfectly content without ever touching your keyboard.
So this is one thing I never thought I'd say, but I've been considering picking up a Football Manager title.
It's on GamePass.
Just because I got so sucked into the Welcome to Wrexham documentary.
You want to take over Wrexham?
I don't know. I just like. I feel like that'd be pretty cool to like to run a football club, and then I can like pretend to be Rob McElhenney a bit more, which suits my life goals really.
There is something to be said about simulation games, and I think me and Richie both the same. Like we play FIFA, probably we're exclusively career mode purists. Like I don't go online and verse all these teenagers and get my ass handed to me and doing TikTok dances and stuff. I'm literally in it for doing the transfers, building my team, getting my overall squad strength up. Yes, you can play the games, but you can also simulate them if you don't like to actually play the game. Go through the season, see how far I can get in the cup, and then if all fails at the end of the year, going back into the transfer market, making these deals with better players, doing their wages, doing their 2-year, 3-year contracts, negotiating with them. I actually have more fun, I think, in the transfer window in career mode than I do sometimes playing the actual matches. Which it's all about stats and just cranking those numbers up.
One of my biggest things I've always enjoyed doing with FIFA is I'll look at a team. Usually, a team will come into the news. Oh, this team's doing terrible. This manager's about to get sacked, and you kind of come up with like a concept for how you think that team should be, and then you go into FIFA and you try and build that team. So I actually always in FIFA I always try to make realistic signings, even though theoretically in FIFA you can just sign anyone for any team as long as you've got the budget. But like I won't go out and sign a player that I don't think would actually come to that club, just to kind of put that arbitrary restriction on myself to just make it a bit more interesting.
Yeah. If you want that extra bit of immersion, Rob, then FIFA this year you can play as Ted Lasso. They put him in the game from the Apple Arcade, which I think is a good move. The next step would be to get Ryan Reynolds and his partner alongside that.
I mean, the thing I'm hearing here is that we should kind of direct all the kind of the membership dollar from Helix Cloud Gaming and make an offer on our local team, and then we'll tag Ryan Reynolds and we'll do some like smack talking and things like that.
Yeah. Hey, our logo would look good on a shirt sponsor. I think it's got a good style to it.
I mean, if you want to help us in that goal, you can become a member for as little as 99p.
Go for the highest tier and donate £1 million so we can actually get somewhere.
We need
near
a
the
lot
transfer.
of help getting to that level.
Yeah, let's put a special tier for like £1 million and see if there's any interest.
I did watch Welcome to Wrexham. It is a great show. It's a great series.
It is good, right? Yeah.
You
If someone who just doesn't like football at all, this is turning into a football podcast, but like if someone has no interest in football, I do like the story of what's happening there. So we should do that.
Of all the people I know, I was surprised most by when it was you who was like recommending people to watch Welcome to Wrexham.
It's because I'm such a big fan of Always Sunny, so like I'll follow anything that Rob McElhenney does.
I knew that, but I thought that might have just been one where I'm just going to give this one a bit of a pass because it's not him doing as an actor really. It's just him as a person and a businessman. But
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I fully recommend it to anyone. It's on Disney Plus. Go watch it.
But what is happening in the XPass world, Richie?
Well, if Chris would do us the honours of introducing us to
the properly prepared wrong title entrance point thing. Damn it! I didn't have it up on my screen, and then on my screen right. No, it's on my screen right here. I've still got the Talking the PS overlay set up from when we recorded that. So that the screen I'm looking at is all blue with Talking the PS, and we're talking about FIFA, and I totally forgot we're doing an Xbox show. So as you threw it over to me, I was like, oh, what's the PlayStation one? Just go for it. I will say, though, on this week's CloudQuest, I absolutely fucking nailed the Stadia one.
He did.
You threw that to me out of nowhere. Chris, give me the Stadia intro. 20 minutes into a CloudQuest show.
I think like 160 weeks. I don't think he did it once. Correct me in the comments if he did. But anyway, Chris, would you like to introduce us to the
The excellently exuberant, excavated Xbox expose, aka the news.
As I've already said, you can get early access to very much a handful of our shows, such as Talk the PS and CloudQuest for as little as 99p. And big shout out to our new member, Caffeine, who is powering this show right now, because I've had way too much coffee already. But
Coffee.
anyway, let's get into it. So, first news item, I just want to get through this one because we're going to be talking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks still, I reckon. And it's the Activision Blizzard acquisition. It's still rumbling on.
Yeah, it's where are we at even now with it? It seems like the EU is kind of putting the brakes on this going through smoothly. Rightly so. They're scrutinising it, they're investigating it. But I feel like Microsoft at one point were just like, we were hoping to have this through by the end of 2022, and it seems like it's dragging its heels now with every regulatory body across Europe coming out going like, let's have a look into this. And I do think Sony have done a lot of stuff behind the scenes to put the focus on it a little bit more, and I genuinely still think that they're doing it not because they don't think they'll get what they want in the end. I just think they're trying to bide more time for themselves to get out a first-person shooter that's exclusive to PlayStation.
I think there's that, and I think there's also part of it is to mitigate the nature of the deal, because we've talked before about how the potential of like having like a lot of caveats to the deal, like Microsoft can't make put Call of Duty on GamePass or exclusive for like 10 years, things of that nature. And the more they push back against this deal, the more regulators will actually want to see like probably changes to like certain clauses and stuff. But the EU have given themselves till March 2023 now before to make a decision. But
I think it does show, like, if we were talking 10 years ago, there's no way like the EU would have got this involved in like a video game kind of business transaction, and it goes to show like the scale of the industry, which I think people sometimes forget, like on these things. So
yeah, I think
it just goes to show how big a medium it is.
In the world we live in now as well, with so much scrutiny being on budget and cost and the way governments are handling like inflation and such, I think any private company dropping this much money on just buying a game creator, when that let's face it, that money could solve poverty in a lot of parts of the world. So the fact that it's just going on purely, it's same like Elon Musk, 44 billion on acquiring a social media platform. Could that 44 really not go to maybe helping third world hunger or poverty in your own country? No, he's just going to buy a blue Twitter website with a bird and mess it up and do what he wants with it. Yeah. But I think that does add extra scrutiny where the powers that be in governments that probably have way less funding than these two companies ever will, rightly so, probably step in and go, should we maybe look into this a little bit more? Because Call of Duty, the Modern Warfare 2, I know we covered it on last week's show, I think. The new numbers were over the course of the week, it made like $100 million in a week. Like biggest launch of a Call of Duty franchise since like one of the original ones, and it's like there's just so much money. It's like no wonder. That's
where Microsoft probably saw the numbers and kind of went, oh great, it's getting a lot of money, that'll be good for us in the future. But oh crap, that's terrible for the deal. If it flopped out the gate, it's like they go, look, it's not as big as people making it out to be. It's fine.
Like every year, I'm always surprised that it's still like, as someone who's kind of fell out of interest in Call of Duty because it just started to feel the same year on year, and I think because we do get hit with it every single year, I was just a bit tired on it all, fatigued on the whole thing. To see it still every year, I'm thinking, surely at one point gamers are going to go, not for me this year, I'll pass, I'll skip, or whatever. And you'd see it win, and it's still the top. Like the only thing that would knock it off its pedestal would be a Grand Theft Auto 6 release. I don't think there's anything else in the world that could release that would knock Call of Duty off the annual top sellers.
Yeah, I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves that we are. Yeah, well, we're sort of gamers. We're quite invested in gaming in the industry. I mean, we've got multiple gaming podcasts at this point. And we kind of will play a game and move on to the next one, move on to the next one, move on to the next one. There's a huge amount of people out there will buy their Xbox or buy their PlayStation every generation and will pretty much play Call of Duty and maybe something like FIFA or Madden. And that is gaming to them. That's all gaming is. They might play a couple of hours a week or maybe one night a week. they and the mates jump on and play a couple of hours of Call of Duty, and then put the controller down, don't touch it till next week. So I can kind of see when there's a lot of people doing that, how your interest wouldn't decay over time as much. But I think as well, giving themselves time, I think is a smart move, because gaming while it is a huge industry, it's kind of largely been ignored a lot in politics, and I think there's a lot of people in politics who probably don't really understand the industry that well. So giving themselves the time to kind of research it and make sure they're making the right decision just seems smart. And if it takes another 2 years, I think Microsoft will still be happy when it finally goes through. It's clear it's not a short-term move for Microsoft at all.
They're too deep as well at this point, and they can't just cut the losses. It's too fine.
They might not be able to. Elon Musk tried to pull out the Twitter deal, and he got told, "No, you don't have. No, that's not happening." And now he's just trying to sabotage it.
Yeah, but it does say as to the scale of what's happening. Where, what's the current acquisition price?
68.7.
That's a bigger deal than a Twitter deal, and obviously Twitter is that conversation's part of the mainstream kind of talk of everything, and this is a bigger deal that's happening.
A side note, while we mentioned Twitter, I saw there's a YouTube channel called TLDR. They did a breakdown on Twitter, and actually Twitter from an advertising point of view is tiny compared to some of the bigger players, and compared to its kind of cultural relevance. It just doesn't do it does less than Snapchat. It does
it's a trash platform.
It does less revenue than Pinterest in terms of advertising.
Yeah, but again, it's such this deal's bigger than anything that Twitter is doing in terms of monetary value.
Yeah,
and
this is huge.
It's right that kind of people are looking at it and saying,
let's
good?
look
is
at this
bad?
properly.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of capitalism gone mad, isn't it? When private companies have, we could do a whole podcast talking about that, but to put it into more perspective in terms of wealth, remember Disney paid $4 billion for Star Wars. This is $68.7 billion.
Yeah.
Star Wars is a huge thing unto itself. $4 billion. It's a drop in the ocean compared to the money we're talking about here. And again, I just think companies having this much money to just throw around, it deserves scrutiny, because it's where is this money coming from? Who has this much money? Why is it valued at that? And what wider impact? And again, at what point do we get to Cyberpunk 2077 time when the world is ran by just 3 big corporations, and they're so big that the governments that should have some control over them or some insight, they're just kept out because of wealth and money and privatization. You just can't get into it.
There is that worry.
Cyberpunk future.
It feels like we've had a little while now where we haven't talked about any major acquisitions or mergers, apart from the Activision Blizzard. And we should always actually mention as well, because we always forget about it, King. Is Activision Blizzard King? King are massive in the mobile space. So while the focus is rightfully on Call of Duty as the most prominent IP in this purchase, Candy Crush makes a lot of money.
Yeah. And also the Blizzard back catalogue of kind of properties as well. That seems to be getting lost in the mix a lot when
Overwatch, Diablo, because of all the Warcraft.
Yeah, but
Starcraft.
Because of all the COD talk, it's getting kind of a bit eclipsed.
Yeah. But yeah, this is, I think, one. Actually, I'm kind of hoping now, the EU went, we're giving ourselves to March next year to make a decision on this, that this story might go quiet for a couple of months.
I'd imagine so.
And hopefully, early next year, we'll have a resolution, because I still think the deal will go through. Do either you think the deal might not go through?
I think it's that much money. I don't think they would have put that much money on the table without the guarantee of it going through. I think Microsoft have probably got some of the best lawyers in the world, and anyone who's going to put up a defense against it. At the end of the day, it comes down to, if you've got the money and you want to buy something, and the company you're buying is willing to sell, who is anyone to stop in and say no? As long as it's not something nefarious and the kill against human rights and stuff like that. If it's just a business acquiring another business, regardless of the price, who's anyone to step in and say no, you can't do that because of X, Y, Z? Because it's it's our business, it's our money. And then I just think it's so much. And Microsoft, they're no fools to this. They've done it time and time again. Then that the world keeps going, and that's capitalism, right? 101.
Yeah, and they're also doing a lot in a very kind of small way, I think, to show that they are willing to play well with others. Like, we're talking tomorrow, we talk a bit about Skyrim coming to PlayStation Plus.
Mm-hmm.
That Skyrim is Bethesda, it's a Microsoft title, and so it's specifically coming to a Sony platform. I mean, I know Skyrim's already there, but the fact that it's coming to PS Plus, that's something Microsoft can point to.
What do you think Microsoft could do to just finally shut Sony up? Like, if they went, look, you can have Halo on PlayStation. Like, Starfield, you want it? Fine, you can have it. Just stop going on about this Activision acquisition.
Nothing. I think Sony...
Do you think they tried it? Do you think Sony tried it? Went, give us Gears of War.
They've had conversations, but I think Sony are probably going to push this right up until the decision's made, just because Sony want to get as much as they can out of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Secure as much as they can of that portfolio over to their platform. So
I guess Microsoft could buy Sony.
For this money, they could have done. Yeah, that's
I'm not sure they
on.
could, to be honest, because if this deal's getting looked at, if Microsoft try to buy Sony, I think that'd be like no.
I think they could. Again, for all we know, in 20 years' time, Sony could have somehow made themselves bankrupt, and Microsoft go, let's just acquire them and sort it out. Like, remember, before the Switch came out, everyone was talking about Nintendo folding and doing something, and Nintendo could have gone the Sega route. Like, because we can talk today about, is Sega up for acquisition? Is Sega the next big one? You wouldn't have been saying that in the early 90s about Sega. Again, who knows in 10, 15, 20 years' time?
I think the issue would be if Microsoft tried to buy Sony, that would actually constitute a monopoly.
Potentially, yeah.
You can buy Monopoly on both platforms.
You can. Maybe they'll buy Ubisoft and they can only buy it on one platform. But
Monopoly will buy Ubisoft, though.
No, the other way around.
That guy's got loads of money, you know. He's been sitting on that free parking for decades at this point, so he's loaded.
But does he have a monocle? Let us know in the comments below. Moving on to some Halo news next. What have we got? News: Halo Infinite promises shorter seasons, more consistent content drops, and bigger things to come. So it's actually quite a big news story, this one, for Halo, because one of the criticisms of Infinite was the slow rate of content drop after launch. So this is a weird one for us to talk about, because, I mean, I know we haven't really played Halo yet. It's on the list of things we want to play.
With this being the most recent one, and because I want to go through them all and get to that kind of modern touch point, which I'm really excited to do. I know it's been criticised quite a lot for it's been quite like thin on the front, and like you said, the after game support. I think the last update they announced was just as weak as anything. There was nothing really new included in it. I think ray tracing was one of the things. It was like, great, that doesn't really add any more content to the game. But yeah, with the winter update, I think the big thing that's come along is the Forge mode, which allows gamers to make their own maps, multiplayer maps. And already this weekend across social media, I've seen so many like clips. There was one, someone's made a game called Diglett mode, where basically every player starts off in a hole and all he can do is pop up and pop down, and you have to pop up and try and kill people in other Diglett holes at the same time, and
that
it looks so
fantastic.
funny because in the clip all you see is every time they pop up there's about 10 different Master Chiefs just going popping up all over the place, and you've got to get your kill in really quick, arch your grenades, all that kind of stuff. And again, when you give stuff out to like the modding community or the creator community, they can just go totally batshit crazy with it. And I think that's what Halo's been looking at. It's that, like, what can we do to continually keep this game alive and allowing people to make their own game modes? It's one of the things that I used to love about like offline games, like back in, like we've said how many times in the show about how much map creation in Age of Empires was so fun. And Rob, I think we said in like Red Faction back in the day, some of the simpler maps were some of the best. And I think a lot of people
100%.
have fond memories for the old Halo maps. So give them the tools. I think they've said in Forge mode they're doing loads of stuff around in like scaling stuff, adding audio, adding different elements, and essentially giving all of the developer tools over to the community and just like do what you want. So I think Forge mode could be the kind of sleeper hit that's going to help keep Infinite alive until the next big content drop.
Yeah. So this like community part's like an interesting thing to talk about in the context of Halo, because kind of when the internet was like kind of developing and content creators were first coming out, the red versus blue for Halo, like that kind of web series, which rooted to, like it basically like gave Rooster Teeth the money to do everything it's done now. That was such like a key part of like Halo's identity, I feel, and that kind of went away as like the other kind of titles came and go. But it gave it a lot of longevity, and I think that's one of the reasons that GTA Online had like the kind of legs it had for so long, because of those creator modes. So I think kind of allowing the community to get back involved in Halo in a bigger way and kind of create its own kind of content around that could be like a big win for it. Because I played Infinite when it first kind of dropped, and the multiplayer was really fun, but it just didn't have the legs behind it, and that's kind of how I dropped off. But yeah, the creator like content and the kind of potential for streams and kind of like YouTube shorts and like stupid TikTok clips to come out of this is like could be the thing that kind of rebirths it.
I think the day, unless you're like a Call of Duty or something, the days of being able to have this multiplayer experience tacked onto your single player narrative experience, whereas like he's like 10, 15 maps, play team deathmatch or capture the flag, and that's your lot basically, over and over and over and over and over again. I think people do get a bit bored of it. Now we are used to these more like things like season passes and regular content drops. You look at like how Fortnite just has reinvented itself over and over and over again by just adding new. It's not even just changing up the map; they have straight up changed the map entirely at times.
Exploded it all into
that's what I was
and then
thinking of.
rethingied it.
But they've also added new mechanic elements in that changes the way the game plays, so it keeps that freshness to it. That's before you add in all sorts of like different skins and all that sort of stuff. So I think that is now the Fortnite has re-established what you need to do to be a successful competitive multiplayer game. You have to keep bringing in new stuff to keep it feeling fresh.
Yeah. One of the best parts about this for us in particular, is one of the key additions to start with is campaign network co-op, making it possible to up to 4 players to experience Halo Infinite's campaign together. Now, I've got such fond memories playing with my brother back in the day when we would go through like campaign. Like that's one of the reasons we absolutely adore Time Splitters, because you could do the whole campaign just together. And I can just see like an awesome Thursday night when the 3 of us jump into Halo Infinite story campaign and just have like a wild, crazy fun time. Because it's like, I don't feel like in today's world many games allow you to play a single campaign as a collective group.
Yeah.
Especially when we're such story heavy anyway.
Yeah. Interesting enough, one of the criticisms of Infinite was they did promise split screen co-op.
Yeah.
And then kind of went back on it, which I think definitely kind of, I wouldn't practically have used it, but the fact that they promised it then went back on it soured a lot of people, I think.
Especially OG fans who grew up with couch co-op. So like me, who played it with my brother, it would be a case of, come round mine, we'll have some beers and we'll relive the old glory days, and then go, they've said they're not doing it anymore. It's like, but we already both bought the game now. It's like,
so now you're sat there with like on the voice chat in different houses.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Like sometimes when you sat on the couch co-op stuff, it is better in some ways. Apart, split screen is objectively worse than like having 2 separate screens.
Oh yeah, it's
but there is something about when like you sat together. Like I know, like the times me and you, Chris, have played like Overcooked together. Like whereas like we've played it online together, but it's always more fun when we're sat on the couch together.
Yeah, absolutely. As well, forward shout out, but I can't wait to get on this GoldenEye remaster remake with you guys.
Yes.
God, yeah.
Because I don't think we experienced GoldenEye much together. Like I always remember playing around my cousins.
You probably played around mine a handful of times.
Yeah, I think so, but never. I don't know if we were the right. Yeah, either way, I think like that's something I'm looking for.
The issue was then is like everyone had like a 22-inch TV which had to get split up into 4 sections, and it was like I can see
somehow.
nothing. Yeah.
So somehow it probably shouldn't have worked, but it did.
Yeah.
That's
you got
weird,
like 20 pixels per person.
It's that bizarre thing. It's like back in the day, couch co-op was just standard in a lot of games. You'd just jump in, you'd have a weird horizontal or vertical split that just did not look good at all on a tiny screen, the other side, like a mile away in the other side of your living room. Now everyone's got massive TVs, and we're like, well, but we can't play on the same TV.
Yeah.
It's like, it's for arguably there's never been a better time to play split screen.
Yeah.
Moving on from Halo, another online game coming to Game Pass is Battlefield 2042. So that will be joining us. Did either of you play Battlefield? Chris, I know you were actually kind of looking forward to potentially coming to Stadia.
Yeah, what an idiot. Battlefield. I was looking forward to it potentially coming to Stadia, but then the biggest thing for me is I enjoyed Battlefield 1 so much. Got the platinum in Battlefield 1. I was looking forward to Battlefield 2042, and then I think in about probably 6 months prior to launch, they went, there's no campaign, and my interest just went, why would I spend £70 on a game that is just online multiplayer shooter when I've got Warzone for free, or I could play Halo Infinite on Game Pass? It was like, you're literally giving me no reason other than this game comes out and it's 10 out of 10, which it probably was never going to get that. So I was like, I'm not going to pay 70 quid for it when I've got equivalents, or if not better, in the form of other titles that I can play. And obviously it got dragged through the coals on launch. And I think, it needed something good. So it coming to Game Pass. Like, again, it will be a fun shooter, but just not one that I'm willing to drop 70 quid on. So now they've had, a year to work on it and polish it up. And I know they pulled... did EA pull Motive, I think, over to work on it and help fix it as well? So they pulled other development studios off other projects to come help out with this. Yeah. And I'd like to think at the launch of, Season 3? And going on Game Pass, it's going to see, hopefully, a resurgence, because it needs it.
I think Game Pass could be like a catalyst for this game to re-emerge. Again, after it kind of flopped out the gate, a lot of people would have looked and went, no, I'm jumping out, but now it's on Game Pass. Like, well, you don't have to drop that $70 to actually jump in now. You can just, if you have Game Pass, you can just play. So it's like a lot of people are like interested as an alternative to like Call of Duty. I think this could be a good get. And, again,
I will say the game has made some good progress since that kind of initial like barn fire of a release. Still not enough to pull people back in at a retail price, but as you said, this could be the thing that kind of gives it a shot in the arm, gets a bit of a community around it again.
The retail price for me is just stupid. Bear in mind, this game was getting launched in a world where Call of Duty Warzone was already out and completely free to play. And you're charging $70 for it. So why would people want to?
It does just show you the stark difference, though. Like, this show we've talked about Modern Warfare 2 coming out making $100 million. And also having Warzone to compete with. And yet Battlefield is so far detached from that now in terms of like quality and I guess brand awareness, like IP awareness, that people are just clearly in one camp. Like, it's weird because Battlefield, traditionally, they haven't been bad games. They're just not. They just don't have that weight that Call of Duty has, and it's like they're so similar in terms of all their DNA. It's actually it's very crazy how one is so much favoured over the other. EA missed the chance last year. Yeah,
I always loved the Battlefield series until kind of 4 I could see a notable difference, and then it's kind of declined from there. But I was a very much a Battlefield over Call of Duty player, like in the earlier games of the series.
Bring back Medal of Honor.
I remember, wasn't there stuff in like the earlier games where there's like I remember people talking about like the buildings were destructible and stuff. The battlefields were much bigger. Like it's more of a grand scale to it. Where Call of Duty at the time was these kind of smallish maps, which were funny enough. But I've always felt like when you hear people who got into Battlefield talking about it, it was like almost like a next level experience compared to Call of Duty. It just never got the same sort of user base.
But, the best thing I loved about the Battlefield games was the the multiplayer, the phases. So when you go into like there's like 100 people on the map and it goes in like 3 phases. So if you're trying to take like a stronghold area, you've got the initial breach and then you've got a fallback defense. Yeah, essentially in 3 phases, just much better. But what I think I'm looking forward to Game Pass the most is just like, again, getting hands on with you two and our community and just kind of seeing what they've done to fix it, because I think not playing it on day one and jumping in now when they're telling us everything's been fixed and patched and it's got such rich content, if we jump in now and go, hey, this is awesome, this is great, like I don't see what the problem is. As someone who's never played it before, that's what surely EA want, is people to come to this brand new with Game Pass, fresh eyes. Older people come back who did maybe play it at launch and go, oh, it was a bit crappy. Come back and go, oh, you know what? They've fixed this. They've done that. They've done true by what they said. Because I think the fact that they're supporting Battlefield 2042 suggests they're probably not working on a new entry anytime soon. So you got to support this one.
I'd like to think they've made the decision to bring it to Game Pass now because they think it is where it needs to be. I mean, you can make the cynical argument saying this is where it is now is where it should have been like a year ago when it came out.
Absolutely.
Was it last year?
Yeah,
it came out?
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, this is where it should have been on launch, but it's almost like a soft relaunch of it.
Mm-hmm. And Game Pass will bring in like thousands upon thousands of new players.
Again, we will be playing this at some point on a stream. Don't know when. Maybe it's this week. Maybe it's next week.
I mean, it's not out this week, so probably.
Yeah, whenever it comes out. Yeah, so it won't be this week, but we definitely will be jumping in at some point. Anything more to say on Battlefield, or should we move on?
No, I think our descriptions were just funny side by side. So I think I said a shit show. Rob said flopped. Something floppy, and then I think. Rob said barn on fire, and Richie said flop out the gate. So, like, I think if after we play it and we can improve on those descriptions to some degree, it's probably done a lot of good work.
Yeah. Well, moving on, I don't want to dwell on this because this next story, but I think it's one of them. You can't have a Microsoft Xbox podcast without bringing up the longest existing franchise in Microsoft's library on a big anniversary. So Microsoft Flight Simulator is celebrating its 40th anniversary. That's insane, to be honest.
40 years.
Yeah, like the entire concept of a game being like having 40-year history just still doesn't compute in my head too much as a concept.
That must mean that this first one came out in the mid-80s.
82?
82, yeah.
Maybe.
Like, I knew it had been around a while because I think I played one in the 90s. But
yeah, I played. It was one of the first games I got bundled in with, like when I bought a PC, and like back then, like the joysticks were like kind of a big thing. I got bundled into when you bought like a new PC.
Yeah.
And I went into it thinking it was like a war simulator almost instead of just a plane one, and then I could never get the plane off the ground because I was too young to understand the sim element of it.
I wonder if you'd seen the one I had, because I had a World War II one.
Maybe then, yeah.
Yeah. To give you some history on Flight Simulator then, so the original ones, because they were simulators first and foremost before games, is the original entries since 82 were actually just known as like Flight Simulator 1.0, Flight Simulator 2.0, so they were actually like proper like computer programs. It says on the article here, Flight Simulator began as a set of articles written by Bruce Artwick in 1976 regarding a 3D computer graphics program. When the magazine editor said that subscribers wanted to buy the program, he set to work on creating it and incorporating it into a company called Sublogic in 1977. The company began selling flight simulators for several computer platforms, including Atari and MSI, basically a bunch of computers you've never heard of. In 1979, Sublogic released FS1 Flight Simulator for the Apple II, and then in 1980, Sublogic released a version for TRS-80, and in 1982 they licensed it to IBM PC version via a CG graphics card for Microsoft, which then released as Microsoft Flight Simulator 1.0 on a self-booting disc. And then obviously it's just gone on and got bigger and better and stopped being more about Flight Simulator and more of a video game, and then also utilised for actual training real world pilots. I
think it's never strayed too far from its roots, to be honest, because it still is a flight simulator. Mm-hmm. It's not. Yes, there's a bit more gamified stuff in it, but you can just jump in and go for a fly. Like,
yeah. What amazes me is like the rigs that some people create just for Flight Simulator.
God, yeah.
Like, holy shit! Like, I saw one. It's like a room, and the guy's basically just made a cockpit, and he's got like the projector screens, like as like everything. It's incredible, like the passion that some people have for this.
It's commitment, is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you got to be hardcore. I'm sure my dad would love something like that because he likes his Flight Simulator.
It's just, all the peripherals and stuff, like proper. I could see your dad, Richie, sitting down with like a captain's white shirt on and his hat and whatever like concoction is made in his shed or something, going like, right, let's go to Miami.
I don't think he'd go that far, but if I could give him like a flight stick, like a nice flight stick, and like the problem he's always had is that you need a pretty decent PC to run it well.
It runs in the cloud now.
It does run in the cloud. I should get him XPass.
You should.
GamePass. Damn it!
You did it. But yeah, in terms of shout out to Flight Simulator. It's fantastic, and I think it's a shame Microsoft don't do more in the VR world, because I think Flight Simulator in VR would be that next logical step for this franchise.
That would be amazing.
Like, because all the grunt work's done. Just headset on, and you are in the cockpit, like Rob said. Yeah,
you got your flight stick in front of you, and you've actually got a flight stick there. And you could make an awesome flight sim VR rig. That'd be absolutely incredible. Microsoft, do it. Just do it.
Partner with Steam.
Moving on now to Mass Effect 5 development is going very well. Let's talk very briefly about this one, because we are going to talk more in depth tomorrow on Talking the PS, available on YouTube and podcast services. Anything you want to add here about it?
Mass Effect was Xbox exclusive, right, originally?
Mm-hmm. Well, like flagship titles, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the reasons why I didn't jump onto them first time around, being a PlayStation kid. I think just didn't miss them. But yeah, when I picture that Mass Effect cover, I picture the 360 box, on a shelf somewhere.
I was a PC gamer at the time, so I was like, I know the Mass Effect trilogy was on PC, but I was playing other stuff. I was more into Dragon Age, which is something we're going to talk about briefly next as well.
But yeah, it's similar to kind of like BioShock. Like BioShock was exclusive to the 360 until the later on releases came out, and it's just I think people forget there was that time where Xbox had some absolute stellar exclusives. Yeah. That then obviously went on to be widespread.
That explains why I do kind of have this affiliation in my mind with Mass Effect and Xbox. I've
marketing.
Sometimes I think sometimes I have to remind myself that BioWare is owned by EA, not Xbox, and it's probably down to that, the marketing of Mass Effect back in the day.
Yeah, well, it'll be when they were independent as well, and they were just doing marketing deals for the sake of their own business. And BioWare were like, "Oh, you'll give us money to make Knights of the Old Republic as a 360 exclusive." Yeah, let's do it. And then they got snapped up by EA, and EA were like, "Well, we kind of publish on everything, so you can't make another Star Wars one, but okay, let's go do Mass Effect instead." And Mass Effect is arguably one of the best Star Wars games because of just the richness of the world and stuff.
And unfortunately, I think BioWare kind of went downhill after the EA purchase.
Yeah,
I know some of the biggest hits of BioWare did come out early under the ownership of EA, like the Mass Effect trilogy and the first Dragon Age game. I think were published under EA, but they kind of went down. Happened. Dragon Age 2 was kind of I think they made that game in 9 months. So it kind of just feels like a bit light in terms of everything that goes on in that game. I think Dragon Age Inquisition has got one of the greatest openings of video games. Really, it's really sucked me in. But the more, when you get a game where the more you play, the less you like.
Yeah.
It was one of them. And then obviously Andromeda didn't do great out the gate, and BioWare need a win. BioWare need a win.
Yeah, I feel like this could be it though, because from kind of they're doing the right things. I think going back to the core characters and things like that. So I'm quietly optimistic about it.
I think they need to nail it this time. I think this and Dragon Age Dreadwolf they absolutely need to nail. Otherwise, it might be the end of BioWare, to be honest, because they're not. I don't think they're in a good position right now. I know the Mass Effect trilogy, kind of give them a bit of a reprieve, but even that had problems. They
could always just fall back on a Netflix series, though, Richie.
Yeah, they could do. Evie is interested in a Netflix series
with Castlevania, and then how well they did with Cyberpunk as well, seeing that kind of cross-pollination. I think it could do wonders. Again, I've never really played a Castlevania game, but that series was just epic, so good. If you are getting it for December, Richie, definitely check out Castlevania if you've not done so already. And Cyberpunk Edge Runners, because they're both top tier animation.
Edge Runners is high on my list of things I want to watch, but I was stacking it until I've got a handful of different stuff on Netflix that I feel like I want to watch.
Yeah.
Just to get my money's worth, really.
Definitely. Play Marvel Snap while you're off as well.
I won't be playing Marvel. But you know what else is getting the TV treatment? Gears of War. Also coming to Netflix.
Netflix,
Is
man.
getting a feature film and animated series adaptations. And to add to it, Dave Batista, Drax the Destroyer himself, once in.
Physically, he just suits the Gears of War universe like
That-
very, very well, right?
was
Like
my
his face just is made for that universe.
Yeah, that was my first thought. I was like, yeah, that casting would make sense in some
Yeah.
role. I haven't played the Gears series, but yeah, it's just like,
Well, he was in Gears 5, right? Like, not like in the game, but they went back with kind of like a DLC promotion where he fully suited up for like an advertisement campaign, and he re-recorded lines for one of the characters in the game. So if you played through it, I believe it was something you could turn on to have Dave Batista voice it and have his skin over the character, which is quite an odd thing to go back and do to a story-based game. But like that's why all the clips he's been tweeting out about, it's like they're genuine. It's not like he's got cosplay in his garage or something. This is genuine footage from when he did the Gears of 5 promo stuff. So it's kind of like him and Terry Crews did Bulletstorm as well, because I think Terry Crews is another guy. I'm just thinking of like the bulkiest guys in Hollywood who would fit like the kind of aesthetic of Gears of War. And let's face it, Batista, maybe Randy Orton to some degree. I'm just thinking of like wrestlers as well, like all these big like massive blokes.
and well, we know Batista's got the acting chops to pull it off as well.
Mm-hmm.
True. Very
I'm trying to
true.
think of the people who would be cast, who would be good cast for it. So like,
Hulk Hogan.
oh god, no,
I think
Hulk Hogan.
The Rock would
But-
have the right physique for it.
Yeah, but I
Well,
think it
then
takes you out because it's The Rock. That's
It
the
turns
issue.
into
Yeah.
a rock movie then, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think. Have you played the games, Chris? Or
I've played, I think Gears 3 and 4. I played half of the campaign, round of friends,
Okay.
but I've never. Again, similar to Halo, one of the reasons I'm excited to have Game Pass is just start from the beginning and work my way through. But like most of my time was spent in the wave mode, where you just basically
hard
just sit
mode,
on and
yeah.
go, because that was just fun as shit. Absolutely.
So I'm trying to think who'd be good casting choices. So like based kind of on the face and physique. So obviously Batista, like Dave Batista, could probably do a good job with like the title character like Marcus Phoenix.
Yeah.
Probably Terry Crews as Augustus Cole, because he has like the very kind of like the linebacker character.
That'd be an interesting
Interesting-
like, comic pairing as well.
Did either of you watch like the web series that got brought out by, I think it was Reebok did it. It was like it was called, what the hell was it called?
This seems like a deep cut. This one.
No,
Did
no,
you
it
know web
wasn't.
series from Reebok.
No, it links in, but there was a series called Office Linebacker, where the guy who voices Cole in Gears of War like was like this like linebacker who just got hired by like a corporate office to like motivate the staff, and he just goes around tackling people in like in the office environment. I don't know if he's still acting or anything, but he would be a good shout as well because he's giant. Ron Perlman, his face.
I mean,
and
he's
physique.
getting on a bit now.
I know, but
He's
he could be
old-
like
he's old Ron.
a grizzled vet.
What
but
about
yeah, there's,
David Harbour? And he was Hellboy. He can bulk up
Yeah,
quite a
yeah.
lot.
David Harbour. Like, you need that type of gritty, washed out kind of.
There's a lot of
look.
people saying Carl Urban. One of
Yeah,
the
Carl
boys.
Urban
He's
is. If
gritty.
they're doing like the actual characters from the game, he'd be a good like Dom, which is like the secondary guy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And like,
Vin
I
Diesel, keep him away from it.
I mean, there's going to be a couple of different things. So there is going to be a feature film and an animated series adaptation.
I feel like the animated one might be more revered, because I think the problem with adaptations of game series, I think a lot of stuff we see in the video games doesn't translate to CGI and live action very well, because you're always looking for that video game character. But I think animation, it can just can almost
more
like
license.
showcase the energy a lot more, like the frenetic nature of a video game, because it too is animation in some form.
I'd
And
be
I think
more
that's why
interested-
Cyberpunk and Castlevania look so good, because the fight scenes were just like thrilling. It's so good the way they can do like all that clever like motion and such. But
I'd be more
I'm
interested in the animated series than the feature film, because I feel like a Gears feature film would just be. This is the one where I would hire The Rock, because it's just going to be a popcorn action flick.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But you already ruined Doom.
Yeah, but I mean, you put The Rock in this, and you'll get a lot of people go to see it, and it'll be a very okay film.
The Rock needs to go back to rock bombing people in movies. I know he's tried to get away from it, but he needs to go back to doing that in movies.
Get his move in there. What was I watching? So, just as a quick side note, just because we're talking about wrestlers and such, I've just been working my way through the Rocky movies for the first time. I've seen bits of them throughout my life, but I've never actually sat down and watched all of them. So like the last week I've watched Rocky 1, 2, 3 and 4. It's like a total binge of them all. And there was a part in Rocky 3 when Hulk Hogan does show up as like Sweet Lips or something, I think he's called.
No, Thunder Lips.
Thunder Lips. And I'm like saying, obviously my wife doesn't really, like, she knows who Hulk Hogan is, but not to that much. And I'm like, the talk about his description coming in, I'm like, is Hulk Hogan in this? Because I knew all the other people were in it. And he shows up and I'm like, oh, you bastard, here you are. And just talking about like all these adaptations and people ruining things, like The Rock going back to it, I was like, oh yeah, Rocky movies. What a time. Yeah.
Dolph Lundgren would be good in Gears as well.
Yeah, again, I'm thinking it's always like wrestlers and who you would get, because they are naturally the more physical people out there. Like John Cena, could he do a part in his Gears?
Probably, yeah.
Gears world?
His acting has gone up in my estimation since I watched Peacemaker, like the TV show. That was really good.
Yeah.
I never
just the
watched
dance scene
Peacemaker.
alone. I don't think it came out in the UK, did it?
No, it's out now on Now TV, but it didn't come out like at the same time. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons that I just had no interest at all, because he just seemed like this random character in like one of the Suicide Squad films that I just didn't even enjoy. So it's like, but then I heard good things about it. So talking about good things, Remedy officially announced the sequel to Control.
Finally, I mean, we kind of knew about it, but it's nice to know that it's officially locked in. Control is one of my favorite games of 2019.
We knew they were making 2 games in the Control universe, and one was codenamed Heron, which is now officially Control 2. At least we don't know whether it'll finally be called Control 2, but is now basically Control 2, so it is a direct sequel.
Yeah, and there's Alan Wake 2 as well. Alan, that's coming.
Hopefully it'll sell better than the remaster.
Hopefully. Control. Like when I was thinking back 2019, like Control was one of my favorite games of the year, but then I was thinking, God, what a year we had as well. We got Jedi Fallen Order and we got Spider-Man for the PS4 as well in 2019. It was like, that's solid, like 3 games that I absolutely loved there. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of Control 2. I hope it's just kind of more of the same, but bigger and better and more fantastical. You never got around to finishing Control, Richie, did it? It's one of these games that I think you've started twice, haven't you? I've officially started twice, but I've tried to jump in several times, and it's one of them games where you play for an evening, you enjoy it, but then it just doesn't seem to sink its teeth in you. You don't have that desire to like go back. Like right now we've God of War, where finish the podcast, edit the podcast, then I can play God of War for the rest of my afternoon. Like it just didn't click in that level. I respect the game. I think it looks fantastic. I think it's interesting story-wise. It just didn't fully click for me. Didn't resonate properly. You should probably just put a pin in this one for now, and then upon the launch of Control 2, jump in the month prior to Control. Yeah,
2. I think that'll be my plan going forward. Like, just wait until like the opportune time. Like when the hype starts building for Control 2, that's when I'll jump into Control 1. Yeah.
Although I hope they don't call it Control 2. Because I don't feel like the 2 sits with the word control very well. I feel like it needs to be Control and then something creative underneath.
I'm okay with being Control 2 until they're ready to reveal the actual title.
Oh, yeah.
Rob, did you play Control?
I'm same as you guys, so same as you, Richie, where I tried to get into it, and there was something about, I don't know how to describe, but the combat didn't quite sit well with me. Sometimes I felt kind of a bit, I don't know, not overwhelming, but just kind of like it didn't gel with me very well. And like I think it's unfair, like lots of people referred to it as like a tech demo of sorts, didn't there? And like I said, it was like kind of had some holes in it, but it was just something about I couldn't. Single
element that I went, that's why I'm not enjoying this game the way I should. There's something about the overall package. It's just like, maybe it was just not the right time for me to play that game. Well, not the right mood for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I feel like it had a hard time breaking through that kind of glut of amazing titles like when it came out. But like the director seems pretty kind of bought into it. Like he's calling it the most exciting project he's ever worked on and things like that. So that gets me kind of pulling back into like the sphere, if you want.
It's definitely Remedy's most successful, I'd say. I know some of their titles in the past, I think Quantum Break was disappointing for them. I think they wanted that to be the next big thing, and then it got kind of caught up in Xbox exclusivity, and it just never really worked for them. With Iceman from the X-Men as the lead in it. And I think Control, although it was made on a low budget, I think it's definitely been their biggest success story, and that's obviously like give them the funding to make Alan Wake 2 and look at other projects and such. But I had a great time with it. I definitely recommend it to anyone, really. But yeah, what a year like 2019 was, really. I think it just got some lost in the mix. Although it did win some Game of the Year, so it put up a good fight.
Over 20 Game of the Years, like across various outlets and stuff. But I wonder if like the whole people describing it as a tech demo kind of thing was. I think it is a great tech demo for ray tracing because there's a lot of marble and a lot of glass surfaces. So you can go and you can just switch ray tracing on and off in the options, and you can see what the potential ray tracing will be in the future.
Yeah. Sekiro came out in 2019 as well. RE2 remake. So it's like, it was absolutely chocker 2019. So no surprise.
Yeah. But moving on now to Prince of Persia. Basically, it's not cancelled, and Ubisoft have kind of put out a small FAQ to kind of just say stop asking about it.
Yeah, stop pestering us about this game.
I mean, when you have to put out announcements saying, guys, this game isn't cancelled, that it says a lot about kind of the position it's in right now, right?
The game's in development at Ubisoft Montreal. They really don't go into much detail. Like release date at the moment, a new release date is not being set. There's no plans at the moment to make any other like remakes in the franchise. Which, to be fair, if with this one being in development hell, why would you make plans to do any others?
Yeah, if you can't get this one out, then
yeah.
I think this is just part of the ongoing Ubisoft problem, isn't it? As I think they're going to hit a reset point, hopefully soon, where Ubisoft are just going to start getting back on track with things. And I don't know what needs to be their big hitter to do that, but we've been lamenting them all year, really, saying like this is wrong, that's wrong, they can't get this on, and then Skull and Bones just got pushed back. We should have been playing Skull and Bones right now, and it got delayed yet again to next year. And yeah, they just need a big shake-up, and I think they're probably just going to draw a line under this year, and from next year onwards, hopefully, do better.
I think for me, Ubisoft games always feel like they're off a production line, and the production line now feels stale. And then they started moving in a certain direction with things like NFTs and stuff like that, and the gaming industry consumers kind of went, nah, we're not liking that, and so now they're in a bit of crisis mode. I mean, the Prince of Persia remake, when it got announced, looked like it didn't look like a remake. It just looked like you took the PS2 game and just went, there you go. It looked more of a remaster than a remake, and everyone went, ooh, no.
Does this come with Game Pass PlayStation Classics this month? Is this what this releases? It's like, no, this is a full remaster. It's like, is it though?
It's not a remaster, it's a remake. That's the thing. If you put that trailer when Prince of Persia Sands of Time remaster, people would have gone, oh, cool. We're getting the remaster of that game. I like that. I never played it, but like it's a beloved game. But with it being a remake, and go, ooh, that looks a bit rough.
Yeah. The problem, the lesson to be learned is don't take a beloved thing from yesteryear and don't improve it at all. Like if you're going to re-release it, like you've got to put enough work in to honor the legacy of whatever it is you're trying to do. Yeah. And if you're not going to do it justice, then just don't bother, because you're just going to sour the audience that are already fans of it, and you're not going to bring in new people in because it looks like shit. So just don't waste your time and money.
Especially the reputation Ubisoft have of like not each individual person being like a bit lazy, but their overall kind of approach to game making getting a bit kind of
formulaic.
Yeah, formulaic is a better word. It doesn't help that kind of argument against them.
Well, I think when you come to like the big question around remakes and remasters, if you're remastering a game, you're taking something that already exists, up-resing it to like modern resolutions, or especially if it's like a 4:3 resolution, getting it running in 16:9. Making sure like updating the audio, remastering the audio, that sort of stuff. But fundamentally, it is still the same game as it originally was. Now just running on modern hardware. A remake should look like a new game. It should look like a game of this era, but be the old game. So like the Resident Evil 2 game remake, I think is a perfect example where it still is Resident Evil 2, but it looks like a modern game. It feels like a modern game.
And look at the success they've had. 2, 3, and soon to be 4 next year. It just absolutely revered. Not only between Resident Evil fans, but newcomers as well.
Yeah. Few more stories just to round out the show. Future DC video games at Warner Bros. Will reportedly be part of a larger connected universe. Superman can fly. Clark Kent. So writes Eurogamer. Thoughts? And I'm surprised on this, to be honest. I just
can't figure out what the hell Warner DC are actually doing. I don't think they know, really. To be honest.
They've got James Gunn at the helm now, haven't they? So after the success of the second Suicide Squad movie, they're hoping that bringing him in with a co-CEO, Peter Safran, who I don't know who he is, but I know James Gunn, through all the successful things he's done, he's now essentially the master puppeteer. And I think the stuff we know with Henry Cavill is he's clearly locked back in for a new list of films. Obviously, The Rock's going to be involved heavily, which we know how much creative power he has. And then now it looks like we're going to have it all tied together. So everything Marvel have seen in success with like Spider-Man and other projects, they've all been their own insular things. And I guess we don't know if Insomniac's Wolverine is going to be tied in with Spider-Man at all, but they're very much standalone. Like the Square Enix Avengers was its own universe and thing. I guess they're looking for some kind of cross synergy. Like if you go and see whatever future Suicide Squad game is going to be tied into the Suicide Squad movie and vice versa. The problem with games development is it takes longer than movies to turn around and TV shows. So unless the game as well just lives in a pocket universe that is still connected but not really directly, it might create some synergy, but I think this is all just kind of hopes and dreams, and actually putting it into practice is a lot harder than they maybe think. But James Gunn's quite switched on.
Do you not worry, though, that the DC universe as it stands is just a fragmented mess of some things are connected, some things aren't connected, some things are kind of half connected, whether it suits them at the time or not, and now you're throwing video games into the mix, into that mess?
Yeah,
I almost feel like
more mess under mess.
It almost feels like, for me, if you want to do this, you need a clean slate protocol where you go, what's done is done. We're going to start again, potentially with recasting some like key characters, and just we're going to do this attempt number 2 at making a DCEU.
Yeah, I think the problem they have realistically is the casting has been fairly great. It's the writing that's been bad, and I don't. The biggest difficulty they've got is if you recast Henry Cavill, you're going to have this massive backlash of people going, but he was great Superman. Even though the movies weren't great, he was a great Superman, so why not stick with him? And I think that's the problem they've got, Richie, is trying to get away from their old stuff, but they can't because they're at risk of pissing off the fan base who love the characters in the old stuff. Like, imagine coming out going, we're going to recast Gal Gadot. Like, she's a terrific Wonder Woman, but the second movie was an embarrassment. That's not her fault necessarily, it's the writing staff and crew. But there's no point recasting her because she's terrific. And it's like Aquaman. I think Jason Momoa is the best person for Aquaman that I can think of, but he hasn't had a second movie yet. The Flash hasn't even came out yet. Ezra Miller, I don't think.
Yeah,
I think you could replace.
Ezra Miller.
He could be, but as a collective, I think like I didn't mind Ben Affleck as Batman either, and yet now we've got Robin Pattinson, which I didn't mind him as Batman. But then, as you're right, it's a bit of a convoluted mess because then you've got Joaquin Phoenix over here doing these phenomenal Joker movies that aren't connected, and then you've got all the CW stuff that thankfully is wrapped up now or just been stripped cancelled. Like, what the hell was it Batgirl that just failed epically out the door?
But again, there's Stephen Amell as Green Arrow, which is again a great casting.
Terrific. I wouldn't replace him at all. So it is just an absolute mess, Richie, which I think is why if you enjoy it, just watch the cartoons.
I kind of think I'm not against like the games being the connected universe. I would keep them away from the live action stuff though. I'd keep them away. I'd keep the live action, animated, and games as 3 separate entities.
Because then with the games, you need to get like do you need to pay for Henry Cavill to come and voice Superman if it's all connected?
Yeah.
Like that gets expensive and very, very convoluted. Because like,
You-
Henry, can we book you in to do some voice acting work? It's like, well, no, I've got all this stuff going on. And
Yeah.
I've got The Witcher 3 to oh no, I don't.
You can still have James Gunn heading up all three kind of divisions, but have them very clearly distinct from each other.
I almost feel like people are getting a bit fatigued with like everything being connected as well.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of over that decade of what Marvel did better than arguably anybody else can do.
Nothing gets to stand
Marvel
alone and rest.
did
now.
it in a way where I think no one's ever been. It's not even come close to replicating. Like,
Apart from obviously the Mummy interconnected universe, which
Oh, yeah,
lasted
that was
for
fantastic.
one movie and then died.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think with the games, you could do a clean slate protocol on the game franchise quite easily.
Yeah, I think that'll be fine.
I mean, let's face it, Gotham Knights could have single-handedly just killed whatever that Pocket Universe was. And I think, again, Suicide Squad, Justice League, not even out yet, but I don't feel like anyone's going to really care about that long-term wise. But the
What about
Arkham
the Gotham Knights
universe
TV show, though? What about the Gotham Knights TV show?
and the spin-off and everything else, card collection game, I don't know.
It just gets back to one of the things I'm surprised at. It shows that Warner are still currently still invested in games for at least another couple of months until they change their mind again.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit like, by the time it's like this comes out on kind of feeds and stuff, like this could all be kind of irrelevant, and Warner Bros. Is just like gone in a completely different direction in the space of a couple of days.
It's like the animated stuff for DC pretty much always lands well. The films are more miss than hit, to be fair. The games should be an easy win, but it feels like Warner probably not the right company in games at the moment to handle it.
I'd agree, yeah.
And we've got Wonder Woman, right?
Yeah.
From Avalanche, makers of Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor. That's possibly next year release, or maybe the year after, but we should see more of it next year.
Yeah, hopefully.
But it's not connected to the Arkham series or Suicide Squad series, so it's like, is the Wonder Woman in that different from the Wonder Woman in this game? It's like, this is where you're 5 years into a development cycle, or 9 years if you're WB Montreal, and you just don't know.
Maybe you start the clean slate protocol going, right, everything that has happened before now in games is done. Game 1 of the new internet-connected DC gaming universe is Wonder Woman. That's where we start. We start with an origin story for Wonder Woman, and then we build from there.
Back to that again. Back to that again. That's Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's also
Full
XPass
circle.
and Wakanda Forever.
It's everything.
Well, I think that's all we have time for this week. If you've liked the video or the podcast feed, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel with notifications switched on so you know when all of our great content goes live. We do have a Discord, so if you want to continue the conversation even further, the link is in the description below. Thank you very much. My name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
We'll see you in the clouds. Bye.